Nissan GT-R is a very interesting car. The car has a long history outside of the US, however, we've only been enjoying it since 2008. This car is a beautiful, amazing piece of machinery. You think about classics like Mustangs, like Corvettes, we're used to seeing old Mustangs, old Corvettes rusting away on the side of the road. However, here in the US, we've never seen old Skylines. Now, unlike Corvettes and Mustangs, when the GT-Rs finally did come to the US, there was already a preconceived expectation of what the car should be, because everybody was already familiar with what a GT-R is. Now, one of the problems with launching your car in the virtual world and having to build something that's going to live up to the expectations of the PlayStation generation is that you've set the bar very, very high for yourself. And like most people who love GT-Rs, who drive GT-Rs, who have a chance, who are lucky enough like me right now to drive one, you understand that all those expectations have been met. Like all things, it's evolved, it's progressed. What started out as a 480 horsepower car now makes 545, up to 600 if you can choose a Nismo package. When Nissan first introduced the GT-R, the benchmark was set very high. What Nissan was trying to do is provide the performance of a Porsche twin turbo at about half the price. And while the first GT-Rs that came to the US were just under $80,000, Nissan learned very shortly after that they can charge a premium for this car and people are willing to pay, which is why this car today is $106,000. Now, Nissan also sells a 600 horsepower Nismo version for just under $150, but unless you're going to do some serious track day duty or you got a lot of friends with a lot of Corvette Z06s and Vipers that you just have to kind of show up, this is more than enough. Like all things automotive, once the GT-R was breathed some life, it started to evolve. It started to become more than just this all-wheel drive, twin turbocharged rocket ship on a budget. Now the interior is much more refined. There's much more premium feels. This dash is just beautiful with this white stitching. It's stuff you would not have expected in a purebred sports car in the past. But charging prices upwards of $100,000, Nissan understands that not only can they appeal to the sports car, hardcore PlayStation gamer generation, people who now have money to buy these things, but they need to be able to attract people away from brands like Ferrari and Lamborghini and other high-end, aspirational, crazy, fun cars, because at the end of the day, that's what the GT-R is. While the GT-R can go up to 200 miles per hour and lap the Nürburgring at ridiculous times, right now on this windy mountain road, I'm just enjoying cruising along and never having to dip below the speed limit. Nissan is offering the GT-R in 3 varieties. The base, the version we're driving here today, is the premium, which is just that. It's a very, very nice place to be. The next level up, starting at just under $103,000, is the 45th anniversary Gold Edition, which brings all the luxurious amenities of the premium and wraps it in a beautiful, luxurious gold package. Now, for just over $111,000, Nissan gives you a Black Edition GT-R, which exposes that dry carbon rear spoiler to the world and adds a special set of limited edition, lightweight 20-inch raised alloy wheels. And if none of that is enough to suit your fancy, for $145,000, Nissan will give you a turnkey race car with a Nismo badge plastered all over the front. 600 horsepower is more than enough to do anything that you could think possible with this car. Almost too much. Now, what needs to be said about the GT-R? Nothing. You already know it. It's got 2 drive shafts. It's got all-wheel drive. It just is a crazy machine. What you may not know is what it feels like to be behind the wheel of a GT-R. Now, the paddle shifters at first you think, oh, but in the end, you can't shift faster. You can't shift better than a GT-R can. So in the end, you let the GT-R do its work because it is better than you. Driving a GT-R, accelerating in a GT-R is like hitting warp drive in like the Starship Enterprise. You put your foot down and all of a sudden your back just sinks into this seat. It's amazing. It's indescribable how the car actually feels. I remember when I first jumped in the car, I was thinking, this isn't fast, this isn't as quick, I've been in faster cars, come on GT-R. And then I realized that I wasn't really driving in boost. And that was kind of the beauty of a car that has a turbocharger. Every gear is kind of like 2 gears. You have first gear, and then you have first gear on boost. You have second gear, and then you have second gear on boost. You have fourth gear, which is like a 1-to-1 ratio, and then you have fourth gear on boost. Now, if you can stay committed, if you can keep your foot planted for long enough, then you can build up enough boost where you can actually make this thing take off like a rocket ship. Now, I was so wrong on my first impression, and I could not have been any more pleasantly surprised. Now, I could sit here all day and try and explain to you just how complicated a GT-R really is, or I can show you. Included in the glove box is not 1, not 2, but 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 little booklets, a quick reference guide, which is pretty small, service and maintenance guide, a supplement to your owner's warranty information, and the information warranty book. Now, these are the 2 big ones that we want to get into. We have the owner's manual and a multi-function display owner's manual. Now, when we're talking about the MFD, we're talking about this unit here, the unit that was developed in conjunction with Polyphony Digital, the guys who introduced us to the GT-R, the guys who made Gran Turismo. Kaz, the beauty, the brainchild behind what has become modern day video gaming, had a serious hand in developing this display. Now, this layout is just like you would expect when you're playing Gran Turismo. It's got everything that you expect. You have boost pressure, you have oil temperature pressures. The only thing that I'm missing are my little tire marks going from blue to red as I overheat them and cook them. But that's really it. Other than that, this is beautiful. The one complaint that I might say, or that I might have for this whole unit, is that once you leave the multifunction display, once you leave kind of the preset really nice gauges, you go back to something that you would have seen in like an Infiniti or a Nissan. And it's not horrible and it's not bad, but it's just, it breaks away from that video game, that kind of I'm in a real life Gran Turismo experience kind of feel, and it puts you back into something like a Nissan or an Infiniti, which is not a bad thing, but it would have been cooler to see them carry through that Gran Turismo theme all the way throughout the navigation system. Normally you would have like VDC and VDC off, vehicle dynamic control, but in the GT-Rs you have 3 different knobs. 1, transmission, shifting, 1, suspension, 1, traction. Now they all have an up switch, which is the R mode. Switch them up into R and you turn this thing into a race car. It's amazing how dynamic it goes from switching the suspension from race, and it gets super stiff and super flat and just corners like it's on rails. Flip it down into comfort when you hit the highway, and all those joints, all those jostles, it just gets soaked up and you don't really feel them. It's not jarring. It's not an unpleasant experience, which is something that people don't want in a $100,000 car. This is an aspirational halo machine. This is not something that people are going to be happy when things fall apart, when things just don't work right, and they're not going to accept, oh well, it's a GT-R, it's just going to be that way. It's interesting how this car handles underpower in a turn. It feels a lot like an Audi RS model, like a really high-powered, quattro-powered vehicle. The front wheels, you can just feel them digging in and just scraping and clawing away at that concrete, and it just pushes the car through turns. It's amazingly incredible how Nissan's engineers have figured out how to defy the laws of physics with this 400 horsepower behemoth that handles so agilely that you just want to go faster. Now, one of the bigger problems with a car like that is you will go faster. And if you're gonna be driving a GT-R like it's meant to be driven, you better be prepared to call the ticket clinic, because you're gonna get a lot of them. Now, GT-Rs aren't quite for everyone. If you just want the style but you don't need to go that fast, the G35, the Infiniti QX60s, whatever they're calling them these days, it's a perfectly fine car. GTRs are made for special people who know what they're buying. They don't have to market GTRs. GTRs sell themselves because people know what they are and people want what they have to offer. GTRs are special machines, and I feel very lucky to be in this one today. If you don't want to feel like you're in a Lamborghini punching you in the back when you're hitting hard shifts, if you don't want to have your face ripped off as you're going around turns, if you don't want all your friends to be jealous of you, if you don't want to have to talk to everybody at every gas station you go to, which you'll visit quite often, don't get a GT-R. Get something else. Get something boring. But if you love life, you love driving, and you expect that a car does exactly what you want it to, oh my God, the GT-R is so right for you. So what does the future hold for the GT-R? Who knows? Odds are it's not going to be this. Hopefully it'll be some same version of this, but with Nissan going to Le Mans with the Nismo GT-R LM, a front-wheel drive twin-turbo V6 powered hybrid running the rear wheels, maybe that's more in line with what we can expect to see in the future. Something combining all-wheel drive with hybrid electric powertrain like all of the hypercars of today. I mean, the GT-R was the original supercar, budget hypercar, crazy, just aspirational car that everybody wanted. So why not follow the trend? GT-Rs are by no means ordinary cars. Each engine is handcrafted in a completely fabricated clean room to ensure that you get optimum, perfect performance every time. These things are incredible. One of the things that's most impressive to me about the Nissan GT-R is just how much it influenced car design when it first came out. I mean, how many cars had to have vents in the fenders before 2008? How many have them today? How many cars had to have wraparound motorcycle helmet inspired cabins? How many have that today? I mean, no other car has pushed automotive design and just what everybody expects out of a car like the GT-R did when it was first introduced back in 2008. And the next generation is sure to keep pushing that envelope. I mean, the limits of a GT-R are so high that you will never ever reach them. Short of putting a car on a racetrack with a professional coach next to you, short of having Lucas Ordonez sitting next to you telling you what to do while he's playing PlayStation Portable, you will never ever get anywhere near the limits of this car. It is just that good.